Today on AMC Movie Talk, John and the panel discuss the upcoming film Looper, what to do with the Incredible Hulk, the new image of Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, and a whole bunch more. So hang tight, AMC Movie Talk starts right now.
This is AMC Movie Talk for movie fans. This is episode number 16, originally recorded on Monday, September the 24th, 2012, at the beautiful AMC Burbank 16 in Burbank, California. Hugh Jackman. Thanks so much for joining us. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Greetings, salutations, everybody. Welcome to AMC Movie Talk for movie fans. As always, I am your host. My name is John Campia. I am the senior editor at AMC Movie News. Thank you so much for joining us. Joining me today, first of all, sitting to my immediate right, she's the associate editor of Movie News here at AMC Theaters. She's Miss Roth Cornett. Roth.
Hello.
How are you doing?
Very well. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. You had a fender bender?
I had a fender bender on Friday, but it was made up for my Frankenweenie weekend.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm sure we'll get a chance to talk about that later. Also recovering from her fender bender.
What is up with this?
She's sitting at the back desk there. She's keeping an eye on the chat board. She's Miss Camden Jackson. Camden, how you doing?
Hey, guys. Good to be back.
Are you recovered from your fender bender?
Yes. I've been visiting the chiropractor, and he's getting me all back to normal.
Awesome.
I don't know. I hope no one else in this room gets into fender bender or anyone watching the show, because it seems to be a trend. It's
going around right now. And also, today for the first time, I don't know how we pulled this off. I like to refer to him as the Snuffleupagus. You keep hearing us talk about him, but you never actually see him. But Dennis Zen, the production manager for AMC, is sitting over there. Dennis?
Hello, everybody.
You're a real, live, actual person.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
No.
No one said that.
Well, listen, folks, we actually have a whole bunch of stuff to roll through today. And by the way, listen, if you're watching us on YouTube right now, thank you very much. Make sure you click subscribe. But you can watch this show live if you'd like. We actually do this show live every Monday and Thursday at 11 a.m. Los Angeles time. That's 2 p.m. New York time by visiting us at the address you see below me right now. That's www.ustream.tv/channel/AMC-theater. Which you'll never remember, but that's why we put it down below me right now. But we're going to start off today the way we do every one of our episodes by getting you caught up to date on everything that's going on in the world of movie news with our news flash. High School Musical stars Vanessa Hudgens and Ashley Tisdale have reportedly signed on to lend their voices to an upcoming animated film, The Great Migration. The story is said to revolve around a group of characters who run afoul of a predator that threatens to kill their environment. I'm taking bets right now that the predator is humanity. Anyway, the film will also star Big Time Rush's Logan Henderson and Kendall. I lost his last name. And Pretty Little Liars' Ashley Benson.
In case you didn't know, Scary Movie 5 is on its way and scheduled to be released in AMC theaters on April 19th, 2013. The cast of the film includes the aforementioned Ashley Tisdale, Terry Crews, awesome, Heather Locklear, Molly Shannon, and Erica Ashe. The cast also includes Charlie Sheen, hilarious, and Lindsay Lohan. Now that is quite a pairing, ladies and gentlemen, who appear in this first image released from the film. Take a look. The two can be seen laying together in bed, looking like some sort of sudden sound in the night has woken them up. Ooh.
Director Baz Luhrmann's upcoming film, The Great Gatsby, finally has a new official release date. The film, which stars Leonardo DiCaprio, Tobey Maguire, Joel Edgerton, and Carey Mulligan, was originally supposed to be released this Christmas, but was abruptly pulled from its time slot, which would have made it eligible for this year's Oscars. The release date for The Great Gatsby is now officially May 10th, 2013.
Everyone knows that a horse is a horse, right? Well, obviously, unless that horse is the famous Mr. Egg.
Clearly.
It's been announced that Waterman Entertainment plans on turning the talking horse character into a feature film. We were just talking about TV shows to become films.
Ed.
Executive Steve Waterman had previously acted as a producer on such titles as Casper, Stuart the Little, and Alvin and the Chipmunks films. So we see where that tone is headed.
Marvel Studios president Kevin Feige confirmed in recent interviews that there are no plans for a Hulk solo movie until at least after Avengers 2 in 2015. Feige also stated that although such stories would carry several major challenges and potential problems, he's not ruling out the popular storylines Planet Hulk or World War Hulk.
Now, this is really tragic news. On the set of The Lone Ranger, the film, which is being directed by Gore Verbinski, who also directed the first three Pirates of the Caribbean, obviously, and the American remake of The Ring, and stars Johnny Depp as Tonto and the Social Network's Winklevoss twins, Armie Hammer as the Lone Ranger, is currently in production and is set for release on July 3rd of 2013. But it was reported that a crew member on the production was killed recently, and there's no specific details are available. He was a driver preparing a tank when something went wrong. Walt Disney Studios released the following statement: "We regretfully confirm that a Lone Ranger crew member has passed away after being taken to a local hospital. Our hearts and thoughts are with the family, friends, and colleagues at this time, and our full support is behind the investigation into the circumstances of this terrible event."
Writer and co-creator of the television series Reno 911, Robert Ben Garant, who is hilarious, by the way, is reportedly set to direct the feature film version of Baywatch for Paramount Pictures. The entertainment site Coming Soon stated that screenwriter Peter Tolan, creator of Rescue Me, previously revealed that his version has nothing to do with the show. He added that there are roles written into the script for David Hasselhoff and Pamela Anderson, but they would not play the characters they did in the series. Garant has also written such films as Night at the Museum, The Pacifier, Balls of Fury, and Herbie Fully Loaded.
Interesting. Can't wait for Kick-Ass 2? Me neither. Well, you have to, because the film isn't coming out into AMC theaters until June 28th, 2013. But we got a little something to hold you over. A pedestrian video was taken in Toronto last week where the film is currently shooting of some of the cast standing around waiting to do a scene. In this image, you can see Aaron Johnson as Kick-Ass, Lindy Booth as the character Night Bitch.
Great name.
It's so amazing. And most importantly, we get our first look at Jim Carrey as the leader of Justice Forever, Colonel Stars, which is awesome.
And that will do it for your news flash. Hey, listen, folks, just so you know, if you are watching us live right now, jump into the chat board and start firing in your questions and comments. If you say something profoundly witty, Cannon back there will probably get my attention and we'll read it on air. But if you have questions you'd like us to bring up in this show, we reserve the last part of the show to address your questions in the chat board. So just fire your questions in there now. Cannon will keep track of them, and she will judge which ones are worthy to read on air, and we'll get around to them.
Make them
All
good.
that power.
Make them good, guys.
All right, let's. We got a few things here we're going to talk about a little bit more in depth. One of the things that we did not bring up in the news flash, which just kind of came out this morning. Now we know that there is another Wolverine film coming called The Wolverine, which is actually a really good title. I like that title a lot. Once again, starring Hugh Jackman, reprising the role as Logan, playing the Wolverine. This morning, the first picture has come out of Jackman from the film. And Cannon, if you don't have that picture up right now, you can bring that up.
Okay. Working on it.
And
Dear heavenly goodness.
the interwebs has gone justifiably insane over this one.
It went away. Like it's like it's a black screen.
Oh, well, don't worry. For those people watching on YouTube, are going to be able to see it. There's this picture that came out of, and unfortunately, you'll have to look it up. For those of you who are watching this live, you'll have to look it up. The first picture of Hugh Jackman has come out, and he looks absolutely...
You can look it up on amctheaters.com.
He looks ripped.
Yep.
Absolutely ripped.
Shredded doesn't even begin to cover what is happening in this photograph of Hugh Jackman. It is bananas. It is insane what's happening. But I think also why people are going crazy. Okay, you guys take a look at this, because John was telling me this morning he did the Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson diet, which consists of a lot of chicken and broccoli, apparently.
Well, yeah. Well, what happened was, now I've heard Hugh Jackman say, "I'm in the best shape of my life for this movie," but you expect to hear that.
He's in the best shape of anyone's life.
I mean, you expect to hear people say that. So of course, that's what you're going to say. You're in the best shape of your life doing the physical role, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's true. It's true. Now, the way the story goes is that some time ago, Jackman, when he realized they were doing the Wolverine, he decided that he wanted to be in the best shape of his life for it. So he got on the phone and gave Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson a call and said, I need to know what I need to do to get it. So Dwayne Johnson told him, okay, so when I'm 4 months out from a role I got to be in and I got to pack on some weight, here is the diet that I do. And he laid it out for Hugh Jackman. And it involves 6,000 calories a day.
Ugh. And none of them are ice cream.
No, none of them are ice cream.
Darn.
Eating between 6 to 8 chicken breasts a day. Dwayne Johnson told him you got to start at 6:30 in the morning by eating this big amount of chicken breast and broccoli, and you have to eat every 2 hours until you go to bed.
And the fruits,
and gave him his workout routine as well.
The fruits of all of that dietary labor are before you.
Like, oh my God, the dude is 43 years old.
It's not okay.
Like, how do you get yourself?
It's fine.
Yeah.
It's okay.
But it's not okay for my mental state because I am not 42 and this is not how I look.
Yeah, he's looking ridiculously good. But I mean, besides the fact that he clearly physically looks fantastic and ripped. Let's talk about the movie for a second.
Yes, because I think another reason that people are going, I'm just so distracted by this photograph, but I think that another reason that people are going crazy for this is because it looks so cool. You know, I mean, it's such a great aesthetic. And what he's talked about the aesthetic of this film previously, and he said, you know, this is really going to be a character-driven approach. Setting it in Japan means that it's going to have a completely different feel from any other X-Men movie. And plus, it's really not going to be overloaded with mutants and teams. It's really going to be about this one character, the Wolverine, and this very focused story for him. So I think that's interesting. Of course, Darren Aronofsky, who Hugh Jackman worked with on The Fountain, was originally supposedly going to direct the film. I never believe it when Darren Aronofsky says he's going to direct a studio film. I just don't think he'll ever do it. But now it's James Mangold. And I know it's just an image. I know it's just a still, but I think that the combination of their intentions for the film, the director, and what Hugh Jackman has said, I think this could be really good.
Well, look, as comic book and sci-fi fans, we always delude ourselves into thinking this one will be good. But I think we have some justification for that optimism here. Like, yes, the last Wolverine film was a bad movie.
It was abysmal.
It was just, there's no way around it. They threw in like 50 new mutants, and why do we need Will.I.am in this movie? Why?
I don't object so much to Will.I.am. I mean, but even the CG effects on that film were really appalling.
No, it was, and they had some really neat ideas that they then just squandered. Ryan Reynolds is Deadpool. Until they did all the stuff to him, I was buying into him as Deadpool.
It's too bad.
And then they ruined it.
They did ruin it. It's too bad because Ryan Reynolds wanted that so badly, and he wanted to make it work so badly. He just seems to have the worst luck.
No, they ruined it, and it's too bad. But the reason I think we sell some hope is, look, was I very curious to see a Darren Aronofsky directed Wolverine?
Yes.
Absolutely, I was curious. Do I necessarily think Aronofsky was the best choice? No. He's a fabulous director, but something like Wolverine and the Marvel Universe didn't seem to jive in my head with it. That doesn't mean he wouldn't have done an amazing job, and trust me, I was looking forward to seeing the results. But I'm going to tell you right now, I am more excited for a James Mangold rendition of Wolverine. He has also worked with Hugh Jackman before. In the all-time classic Kate and Leopold. Whatever, he's worked with him before. But, I mean, you talk about some of the other films that he's done. I loved Identity. I know there are a lot of people who did not like that film. I thought it was a really smart piece of filmmaking. Walk the Line.
I love that
Everybody
movie.
loves Walk the Line,
Yeah.
right? But
I don't know if everybody does, but I do.
For me, I think he did. We were just talking about this beforehand. I think he did a great job on Night and Day with Tom Cruise and Cameron Diaz.
Yeah, and it's one of those movies that so many critics disliked. And I thought it was so well executed. I thought that it knew exactly what it was. I thought it was kind of self-referential, and it was a throwback. It had some fun throwbacks to like 60s style, really ridiculous, over-the-top spy movies. It had that great balance of sort of physical in the frame comedy, you know, when you would see sort of the people dropping down behind them and the waking up in the plane. If you guys haven't seen this movie, you should check it out. And I think it had that great balance of the comedy and the action. And then in Walk the Line, you can see that this person knows how to handle a character drama. So I think if you can combine the elements that he has a handle on aesthetics, he has a handle on action, and he can do a character drama, there's a lot of hope. Plus, by the way, let's not forget 3:10 to Yuma.
I was about to bring that up. I think his best film is 3:10 to Yuma. I hesitate to say it's my all-time favorite Western.
I would,
but it ranks up there for me.
I
thought it was a brilliant, not only as I think it's a masterfully paced, it's a beautifully paced film, but he takes two big, huge egos like Christian Bale, Russell Crowe, who are also fabulous talents, and he finds a way to make them work so smoothly. I bought into that film. It's my favorite. Dennis, the James Mangold films we just all listened. What's your favorite? And why?
I would have to go with the 310 to Yuma remake.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't think you'd say that. I'm so glad you sided with me.
I like Walk the Line, but I didn't love it like everyone else did. I thought it was a really good movie, but yeah, I think the remake for 310 to Yuma.
Yeah, I'm on board with you. So I think James Mangold, his involvement with this, look, I've yet to see something that he's done that has made me go, I really haven't seen anything that's made me go, yet. And so I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt.
Unlike you, I wasn't a huge fan of Identity. To be honest with you,
Right.
I thought
A
it
lot
was
of people
kind of
weren't.
a one-trick pony, and I mean there were elements to it that I liked. I also, unlike some people, am not a huge fan of Girl Interrupted. I had read the book and I didn't think it was a real great translation, but I love 310 to Yuma. I think it's a great and it's a classic kind of a Western, and I think it's really well done. Well, maybe not so classic in some ways, but it's a great film. I love Walk the Line, and Night and Day is fun, y'all. I don't know what you're talking about.
I agree. So great anticipation for the upcoming Wolverine, and this picture, man, I mean, he looks so badass.
He does.
He looks so badass. I'm very excited.
And I love the dark colors too. Yeah,
the tone of the image is really great. Let's move on to this. Opening in AMC theaters everywhere, finally this week, because it was supposed to originally be opened already by now, is the new Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Bruce Willis film, Looper. Now, a lot of people have this film listed quite highly on their anticipated films of 2012 list. I'm thinking I'm going to sneak out to see it tonight. It opens this coming Friday. But Roth, you have had a chance to see Looper.
I did. I really loved it.
So let's go. I know this was super high on your anticipated films of the year list.
It was.
Wasn't it in top 2 or 3?
It was number 1.
Was number 1? Okay.
Yeah. It was number 1 because I was such a fan of Rian Johnson's previous films, Brick and The Brothers Bloom.
Right.
And both of those are films that take a genre. The Brick sort of references the Deschanel film noir novels of that era, the 30s and the 40s.
Now, they were both terrible films. I'm just getting under your skin. I'm sorry. I'm teasing.
I didn't know what to say. I was literally struck speechless. I didn't know what to say. Dennis, oh my goodness. Dennis loves Rian Johnson as well. So I love those films. What he does in his films is he kind of takes the genre, and then with the Brothers Blooms, he takes kind of the con genre and he reworks them. And he focuses really on the characters rather than like the tropes of the genre, although he gets what they are, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? So he does this with sci-fi, and he does kind of a genre hybrid of sci-fi and a gangster film with Looper, which is really fun. And it's a very smart film. It's very meta, if you know what I mean. It's sort of making a comment about violence in filmmaking through a really violent film. And he's brilliant in the casting because he cast who? Bruce Willis,
right,
as this really violent older gangster character. And what happens is that in the film, time travel has been invented, but it's only used through the mafia 30 years ahead of where we're at. And so Joseph Gordon-Levitt is a looper, and that's a hitman. And what they do is they go out and they send people, the mob sends people that they want to kill back in time. They kill them and get rid of the body. There's no trace. Okay,
right.
So that's
because the body can't be identified in our present, and there's no body to find in the future.
Exactly.
So here's a question I wanted to ask you, though. I think the big question that I think a lot of people have going into it now, obviously, Bruce Willis, we know from the trailers, is the older version of Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Exactly.
Do you buy it? When you're watching the film, do you see the older and younger version of the same character? Do they pull it off?
Oh, absolutely. The makeup, first of all, is impeccable on him. I mean, he looks exactly like a younger Bruce Willis. Well, not exactly, because we've seen a younger Bruce Willis. We know what he looks like. But it's very, very close. It's great makeup on him. And then Joseph Gordon-Levitt's performance is outstanding. He has the vocal cadence. He has the physical movement. He has the facial expressions of Bruce Willis. And it's not telegraphed. It just feels really natural, so you forget about it within the first 15 minutes of the film. Emily Blunt, who is also in this film, is better than I have ever seen her in any film. She is so good in this movie.
Now the trailer teases us a lot with a lot of action.
Yes.
What would you say is where does the balance lie between the dramatic and the action in the film? Would you call it an action film? Would you not? Like, how much and how is the action?
I think you have to call it an action film because there's certainly a lot of action and there's a lot of violence. There's a lot of violence in this movie. But none of it is gratuitous. All of it is in the service of the story and the service of the dramatic arcs of the story. So it's in a beautiful balance, actually, because none of it is for its own sake. It's all to sort of tell this story and to make the comment that Rian Johnson is trying to make with the film. But it's a great story in and of itself. So I think it's got good action, but it's very intentional action.
So bottom line.
It's not fun action, but
Right.
it's fun to watch.
So bottom line, you had to rate this film out of 10.
Yeah.
Where would you put it?
That's so hard, isn't it? Because, I think that when you're dealing with something like time travel, you're always going to have questions afterwards and things that you feel like are holes or problematic. But overall, this film has tremendous performances. It has a great script. It is a brilliant take on this genre. It is a brilliant take on what happens in movie making in general. It's a fun story. It's a great character drama. So 9?
Wow.
I really think you should see this movie, and you're going to come back with issues and problems, at which point we can have a debate where I will say that those problems don't matter, are irrelevant, or are intentional for the grander themes of the film.
Okay. So there you have it. A high recommendation to you can buy your tickets, by the way, right now for Looper. You can go to amctheaters.com and get your tickets in advance right now, so you can jump over and do that. Let's move on to item number 3 here. Kevin Feige, as was mentioned in the news flash, had come out and had done a little bit of talking about the Incredible Hulk. Now, of course, the Hulk was one of the absolute crowning jewels in the Avengers. He was just so bloody good.
If we cut back, you can see John very upset that a Hulk movie
that we don't have a
is not
Hulk
happening.
movie. But Kevin Feige, we already knew this, but he did confirm, there are no plans for a Hulk individual movie between now and Avengers 2. So at earliest we'll see it is late 2015, probably beyond that after Avengers 2 is done. But in as much as I get very upset by the idea of them not having a Hulk film now, I love Edgar Wright. Everybody knows how much I love Edgar Wright. I have no desire to see an Ant-Man movie.
No.
I just don't. So the fact that they're working at developing Ant-Man while leaving the Hulk on the shelf, to me, is mind-blowing. I cannot understand this. That being said, the Hulk does present a problem. You have this incredible character that everybody loves, but the thing that we loved about the Hulk in Avengers is the fact that he is running around destroying everything in his path.
Yes.
Including the invading aliens, the Chitauri, right?
Yes.
Now, I bring this up all the time when we talk about Transformers as well. The reason Transformers can have as much violence as it does, ripping off each other's heads, stabbing swords through the chest and come out, you can do all that and still keep PG-13 because they're not people. The blood ain't red. You can do that. If it's robots on robots and fantasy creatures on fantasy creatures, it's not going to get an R rating. Well, you could really push it and maybe get it. But for the most part, you're going to get your PG-13. The Hulk can jump around, grab a Chitauri guy by the face, crush his skull, and slam him into a building, and you can keep your PG-13.
Right.
Because it's not a person.
Or you can have him take Loki.
Yes, you can have Loki do that, because Loki is a mythological, god
That was
from...
my favorite part of the
Isn't
entire
that wasn't
movie.
that so
Oh,
hilarious?
that was like one of the absolute highlights.
That was
It's
awesome.
so funny. It was so unexpected as well. That coupled with Thor and the Hulk having just beat up a bunch of guys standing there, and all of a sudden Hulk punches Thor.
Yeah, that was awesome.
So many
That's
great
all
highlights.
Joss Whedon's brilliance. in my
All
opinion.
coming down to the Hulk. But then what do you do with him? What do you do with the Hulk in his own movie if you don't got aliens? Because what he can't do is he can't have Hulk running around killing human soldiers.
Yeah.
You can have him smashing some tanks, but you got to be able to show like the old A-Team days where they blow up a truck, but you see the other guys run away from it. So nobody got hurt. So it does present a problem. So what do you do with the Hulk?
I think that I think another problem with the Hulk is that the real interesting story in the Hulk is him trying to master and reconcile himself with with what he's become, with Bruce Banner trying to reconcile himself with and control the Hulk. And
it's a story of the dual natures,
right,
really.
Right. It's like the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde extrapolated by a lot. And I think the problem is that they tried to do that with the first couple films, and it just audiences didn't respond to it. And it really worked in the Avengers because he had Tony Stark kind of guiding him and believing in him that he could control what Bruce Banner had decided was uncontrollable at that point. And I think that the relationship between Tony Stark and Bruce Banner and the Hulk really worked. My favorite moment with the Hulk was actually the scary moment with him and Black Widow, when I really thought, I knew he wasn't going to kill her, right? But it was shot so well, and it was constructed so well and acted so well that I was frightened in that moment. And I think that if you could somehow create a movie that went into the depths of that control a little bit more, or like followed him at this point trying to gain control so he can be an active part of the Avengers and so forth, that could work. But then who's the foil? Who's the Hulk's enemy? Who's he trying to fight? I mean, the thing with a superhero movie is that you need them to be fighting an outward enemy, and the Hulk is only fighting himself, a lot of the times.
In the first Hulk film, that's really what it was.
Right.
It was Eric Bana fighting himself.
Right.
Then you moved into the second Hulk film, which I think most people prefer.
Right. Sure.
And I think it was a better movie. And I think most people kind of appreciated the second Hulk film. It didn't have the massive success that Marvel films are used to having. But Kevin Feige brings up an interesting potential. The two storylines, for those of you who aren't familiar with the comic book world, the two storylines, Planet Hulk and World War Hulk, the two storylines are directly connected. In the comic book world, in Planet Hulk, what happens is Dr. Bruce Banner loses control too much. And when he does, the Hulk literally destroys cities. So what happens is you get this weird cabal. Dennis, help me out who I'm missing. You get this weird cabal of Marvel main guys. You had Iron Man, you had Doctor Strange, you had Professor X, you had Mr. Fantastic, and I think there might have been a fifth one.
Don't remember.
I think it might have just been these four. But anyway, these four guys decide, as much as we like Bruce, the Hulk is too dangerous. And they drug him or something. I can't remember how they do it, but they basically get the Hulk, or when he's still Bruce Banner, they bind him up, put him on a spaceship, and just hurl him into space and they send him to some planet that hopefully he can just live out the rest of his days. While on that planet, he becomes a gladiator amongst the inhabitants there. So there's something interesting you do with Planet Hulk there. Clearly you can't have all these good guys sending him off, but somehow he ends up on this planet because then he can fight and do everything that he needs to do, but it's against CG animated monsters and bad guys, and you don't have to worry about the PG-13 rating. Now in World War Hulk figures out a way to get back home, and he decides, I'm going to kick everybody's ass. And he goes after all those guys that sent him there and all the superheroes that get in his way. And it's awesome. Feige does mention, though, it presents problems.
Right.
I mean, there's a continuity problem. Are you just going so much into the mythology that it collapses upon itself? So I don't know if they can do that, but it does present a very interesting situation. But outside, I'll be honest with you, I'd love to hear your comments. Leave it in the comments section on YouTube or on the chat board right now. Where can you go with the Hulk? If you don't do Planet Hulk and you don't do World War Hulk, where can you go with the Hulk after Avengers 2? I'm not really sure.
Yeah,
Somebody's
that is
throwing out
it is
the
a
idea
conundrum.
of a She-Hulk.
Well, there is
Dear
a
heavens,
She-Hulk.
no.
There is a She-Hulk. Yeah, and Tony Stark, by the way, had relations with said She-Hulk.
Oh, that's, yes. But no, dear heavens, no. Please do not do a She-Hulk movie by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah, I don't think that She-Hulk is going to happen or a good idea at all.
Let's move on to item number 4 here. As we mentioned in the news flash, really tragic news coming out of the set of The Lone Ranger. Now, for those of you who may not be aware, they are shooting a Lone Ranger movie right now, starring Armie Hammer, and yes, that's his real name, who played the Winklevoss twins in The Social Network, did a masterful job.
And he was also Prince Charming.
And he was Prince Charming in Mirror Mirror.
Mm-hmm. And he was in J. Edgar.
Yes, that's right. And most notably, Johnny Depp playing Tonto, which I still don't get, but whatever. But a tragic incident. Apparently a diver was working on a tank, and something went wrong. There aren't a lot of details, and they rushed him to hospital. He was pronounced dead on the scene. Clearly, horrendous tragedy. But Roth, you and I have both spent a lot of time on feature film sets. I'm really shocked that this does not happen more often. Because film sets, especially big ones, for those of you who've never been on a feature film set, it is a chaotic, crazy environment with cables and gear and heavy equipment flying everywhere.
Massive amounts of electricity.
It's organized chaos, basically. And it's just that's one of these situations where you can do everything right. You can take every proper precaution, do everything right. But so much can go wrong at any given time. And I mean, I know I hurt myself on the set of my own movie, which was one camera and a few people. I mean, you're on some of these bigger sets. And I remember I was on the set of the last Incredible Hulk film. And like you had military guys running, helicopters flying in, these giant cranes with lights and massive cables and chains and people flying everywhere, rolling giant pieces of equipment. It's like, I don't know how somebody didn't get seriously injured.
Well, I mean, I think that what some people don't realize is that it does happen a bit more than you.
Well, injuries happen all the time.
Well, deaths happen though too. I mean, they do. I mean, they stuntmen. I mean, I can think of several films off the top of my head where stuntmen were killed in recent years. Even James Cameron almost drowned on The Abyss because he was in the tank and he ran out of water. I mean, pardon me, he ran out of water. He ran out of air, and the divers were momentarily distracted and didn't see that he was trying to alert them that he was out of air and needed help. And he didn't, thank God. You know, the situation was handled. But they are really dangerous. One of the things that I used to do when I was freelancing previously was an AD. And in that training, I mean, they really...
for people who don't know what an AD is.
Oh, I'm sorry. For people that don't know what an AD is. Exactly. That's it. It means assistant director, but it doesn't mean you're like an assistant to the director. What it means is that you're basically in charge of the physical management of the set. So that's the schedule. That is your second will handle the actors and paperwork with SAG, but also just like keeping things on schedule, communicating, basically telling people what to do. You're managing it like a restaurant manager would manage a restaurant. But one of the huge things about being an AD that they really stress is how dangerous a set is, and it's your job to keep everybody alive through the end of the day, basically. And they are massively dangerous. I mean, just like I was saying, the amount of electricity alone is dangerous. And so it tells you how well people are doing their jobs for the most part.
The fact that it doesn't happen more often than it does.
But it does happen and that's just really sad and tragic, because you think on this creation, I mean, this should be, look, life's complicated, right? But I mean, this should be something that's a creative endeavor. It's just to make a fun movie. Nobody should die over that, you know, but they do. Yeah.
And like I said, I think these people probably did everything correctly, probably did everything right. It's just that when there's so much around where so much can go wrong, it's bound to happen from time. It's tragic news, but... so
he was in a water tank or something?
You know, they said he was a diver working on a tank, and something went wrong. That's all the details they gave us that I know of. I mean, I'm going to keep my eyes open, and as soon as we know more. But, you know, clearly there's going to be an investigation. Disney says in their statement they're fully going to support the investigation. And hopefully they discover that it was just one of these tragic freak accidents and it wasn't a result of somebody's negligence.
Right.
Which, I mean, at this point, there's no reason to believe that's what it was. So, again, thoughts and prayers.
These are really long days, too.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking like 18-hour shoots per day.
That can make things extra dangerous because people get tired.
All right. Well, folks, we are going to jump into our mailbag here in a second. But first, I want to remind everybody that you're watching this show right now, whether it's on YouTube or whether it's you're watching it live. You can get all of the movie news, get our editorial, see our celebrity interviews 24/7, buy your movie tickets like for Looper right now, or Dread, or one of the other films that are playing in AMC theaters right now by visiting us anytime, 24/7 at www.amctheaters.com. You can also follow us on Twitter at AMC Theaters. Like us on Facebook. Nearly 4 million people already have. Find us on facebook.com/AMC Theaters. And by all means, right now, if you're watching this on YouTube, subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can keep up to date, see all of our videos with our celebrity interviews, editorials, news pieces, and of course, AMC Movie Talk podcast. So subscribe to our show by all means.
Everybody go see Looper and Dredd, and then me and John will do a Looper v Dredd debate.
Sure. Two very different films, I have no doubt. But for now, it's time for us to get to our mailbag. Listen, folks, you can email us 24/7 at amcmovietalk@gmail.com. Once again, that's amcmovietalk@gmail.com. We take in all of your emails, and we're getting a lot of them. Then we pick out a few of them to read here on the show. And right now, Cannon's got a bunch of them picked out at the back. So, Cannon, what do we got?
Quite a few. Our first email is from Aiden. And he says, hey, John, we basically know what will happen in Phase 2 of the MCU. But in a perfect world, what would you all like to see the lineup for Phase 3 look like? And what would be the best direction to go in for Avengers 3? That's part 1 of the question. Part 2. Personally, I hope we see Thanos zap Hulk across the galaxy using an infinity gauntlet midway in Avengers 2 to set up a Planet Hulk-inspired film as the first Phase 3 film. That's a lot of words. I know Kevin Feige recently brought it up in an interview as well. Besides the other sequels, I hope we get to see a Doctor Strange and Black Panther film as well.
Well, actually, I think that just solves the problem that I brought up earlier. How you can't do a Planet Hulk film with Professor X and Mr. Fantastic, whatever, sending him off Planet Hulk. That's just getting into some continuity. But at the end of Avengers 2, Thanos zapping him across the galaxy, getting rid of him, and he ends up on Planet Hulk. I love the idea.
Yeah,
I think it's a great idea.
I think that is a great idea, and it would also explain why Feige specifically said it's not going to happen until after the Avengers 2. Remind me when Guardians of the Galaxy comes out.
Immediately precedes Avengers 2.
Immediately precedes Avengers 2. So this is kind of brilliant. Because with Guardians of the Galaxy, they can test the waters to see how audiences are going to respond to a super spacey, literally out of this world, sci-fi comic book movie from Marvel, right? They get to test those waters. Then you bring in the Avengers 2. You see how people are responding to the Hulk for a second time. The Hulk, you know? And then if it works, and they set it up at the end that he's been spun off to Planet Hulk, then they get to go forward and make that movie.
I think that's brilliant. Because I had this other theory that I would love to see Avengers 2. I'm sure I'll be happy with whatever direction Joss Whedon takes it, but I would love to see Avengers 2 where the Avengers lose. I'd love to see them pull an Empire Strikes Back, where Avengers 2 ends with the good guys losing.
And then we have to come back.
And having to come back to that, regroup. And this theory that Aiden just brought up, the whole idea of Thanos, one of the things at the ending, like zapping Hulk off to Planet Hulk to set up a Hulk film and Hulk having to come back.
Right.
Love it. Then you set up a Avengers 3 where a real mano-a-mano showdown between Hulk and Thanos. Love the idea. As far as Doctor Strange and Black Panther, I don't want to see it.
Yeah.
I don't want to see it. I have no interest in Doctor Strange. I have not a lot of interest in Black Panther, although Black Panther, when he's used in the animated stuff, is actually pretty damn cool. But the reason I don't want to see these guys is, what's the one thing that kills successful companies, successful businesses, and successful franchises way too fast? Over expansion too quick.
Well, and Marvel's made this mistake before.
Yes.
I mean, Marvel's made this mistake before, and hopefully they don't make it again. You know, that's sort of look. It works for the Avengers because it's an ensemble film, but exactly. You try to get too many characters in there. You try to get too many characters that we don't care about, can't relate to, in order to sell your toys, and then you've lost us for the movie.
X-Men overexpanded their universe way too much. Then you got into the first Wolverine film where you just add all these characters because everybody wants to see all these characters. You know what? You got a great mix and balance right now with the Avengers in the movie universe. I understand there's 5,000 members of the Avengers in the comic book universe, but this is the movie universe. And I think you've got a great balance. Don't overexpand it. Let's put in Vision because there's talk about Vin Diesel's Vision.
Right.
Let's put in Doctor Strange. Let's put in Black Panther. Let's put in Ant-Man.
Like Spider-Man 3. Anyone?
Like Spider-Man 3.
Yeah, like just overpopulating.
Or even Iron Man 2.
Yeah.
But I think what's really cool about that idea of having them lose in the second film is that the reason that they absolutely won, I mean, look, they won because they worked as a team and yada, 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 but they had the Hulk. And it was really clear in the Avengers that the Hulk was their ace in a hole. Like, he was just going to come
He's
up.
their sledgehammer.
Yeah. He's just going to come up and tear stuff apart, He's just going to rule stuff. And so if you shoot him out into outer space and he's gone, you don't have the Hulk anymore, it would be kind of great to see the team going, what now, guys? Like, we're sort of, because too, with the Infinity Gauntlet, like, I was thinking, like, how are you really going to defeat, like, unless you just stop him from, getting all the jewels, like, how are you really going to?
Yeah, if Thanos gets the Infinity Gauntlet.
Like, you can't beat that.
That's game over.
That's game over. You cannot beat that.
They have to come up with something.
Yeah.
And that's where Adam Warlock comes in.
Yeah.
But Dennis, I wanted to ask you, okay, let's say, okay, I'm not saying don't expand the Marvel Universe at all. So if you were going to add one more character to this mix, Dennis, which character would you add to the mix that maybe we haven't seen yet?
To Avengers 2 or just to the Marvel Universe?
Well,
in general?
into the Avengers moving forward now. In the movie universe.
That's tough. I'm with you. I don't want to see Doctor Strange movie. I don't want to see a Black Panther movie. What did I read? I'm trying to think of what I read. I'm thinking of characters that are in like the X-Men universe, like Cable,
which you can't cross
like
over.
Cable and Bishop and stuff like that.
I would love to see a Bishop movie.
Yeah, so I'm not too sure. I have to think about that.
It's a tough one, isn't it? All right, what else do we got, Camden?
Let's see. The next email we have here is from Elliot. He says, "Hey gang, I've been following John's movie blogging since 2005 and I love the show. You guys strike a great balance of being informative and entertaining."
Well, thank you, Elliot.
Very much. Nice compliment. Whenever I watch Inception, I can't help but think Michael Caine really wasn't needed for his role. Any instances that you think an A-list actor didn't need to play a certain character, it could have gone to a lesser-known actor. Other examples from me include Natalie Portman in Thor. Totally agree with that. And Samuel L. Jackson in the trilogy that shall not be named.
He wanted that, though.
Yeah, he
that was all
begged
about
for
Sam
that.
Jackson begging to be a part of Star Wars. In fact, so many actors wanted to be a Star Wars, but specifically Sam Jackson took home his lightsaber and is really a geek and really wanted to be a part of that.
He got on the Tonight Show.
Yeah.
And literally turned to the camera and basically pleaded with George Lucas live on the Tonight Show, please put me in these new Star Wars movies.
Yeah.
I'll do whatever you want. Which is actually kind of a cool story. Oh,
yeah.
Of course not.
I mean, and to be honest with you, as much as I dislike the prequels, as much as I really truly dislike those films, man, how much fun would it be to run around with a lightsaber and be in some Star Wars?
And look,
I would do it too.
The prequels had loads of problems. Samuel Jackson as Mace Windu wasn't one of the big problems.
Yeah.
So I have no problem with that. But did it need to be Samuel Jackson? No. Did Natalie Portman need to be the love interest in Thor 2? No. That being said, Natalie Portman is a great talent. It's never, and I always say this, it's never a mistake to add talent. For me, the biggest thing for me is this movie did not need this guy to be there. And it's another pet peeve of mine when it comes to film marketing. Anthony Hopkins in, I believe it was Mission Impossible 2. I believe it was Mission Impossible 2. First of all, he's in the film for about 3 minutes in total.
Right.
Has 2 scenes, maybe 3 minutes in total. So that clearly did not need to be Anthony Hopkins whatsoever. But it leads into this other pet peeve of mine in film marketing. When they put out the trailers for Mission Impossible 2, in that 90-second trailer or commercial, whatever, about half of it had Anthony Hopkins in it. The trailer really led you to believe that Anthony Hopkins is a key player in Mission Impossible 2, and he's in the movie for 3 minutes.
Well,
it's a real big irritation part for me.
It's what marketing people do, which is that they lie. No, they don't lie, but they paint the best picture.
They stretch the truth.
They paint the best picture that they possibly can to invite people to see their film. But I think like right now, and I wouldn't say that he doesn't need to be in the movie because he's quite good in the movie, and it's a character-driven film. But in Lawless, Gary Oldman is really barely in the movie.
Pointless.
Well, I don't know if it's pointless, but he's really barely
how
in the
much
movie.
you get a character. I love the example. You get a character. Dennis and I were talking about this before. Actually, you get an actor like Gary Oldman, and you're going to put it all on him on the posters and in the trailers, and you realize the scenes you see him in the trailer are all the scenes you get him in the film.
Pretty much.
That was, as a film fan, as a fan of Gary Oldman, and as a guy who was liking the movie, I found that very frustrating.
Yeah, I mean, I think that though you never know, Gary Oldman really may have wanted to do it. You know, he may have said, I like this script, I like this film, I like this character, even if it's a small character. Because
it's a very good film.
It's a really good film, and there are no small parts, only small actors, as they say. I mean, he may have wanted to do it, you know, but...
Yeah.
But what's misleading is that then you let the audience think that Gary Oldman has a leading role and he doesn't.
Yeah, that he's going to play some significant key role in the film, and he really doesn't, which was frustrating. All right, what else do we got, Kenan?
Numero tres. Let's see. The next one is from Gary. He says, "Hey guys, love the show. I know it's too early to tell, but my question is, should Joss Whedon stay aboard as writer-director for Avengers 3? Or do you think he could pull off a Sam Raimi and not have success with the third installment? Also, are there any other genre-based films you would like to see him make?"
I've said this before. It's a very unpopular thing to say, but I stand by this totally. I would have been okay if Joss Whedon had decided to walk away from the Marvel Universe after doing the first Avengers. I wanted him back for number 2, but I would have understood the reasoning for leaving. But I said this before, I'll say it again. Whedon, when Avengers 2 is done, leave. Go. Just take the money and run. Celebrate what you have accomplished, because what you have accomplished is astonishing. Don't risk ruining it. We've seen this happen before. I'm glad he brought up the Sam Raimi thing. Raimi is a wonderful filmmaker, but here's what happens. Like Raimi, Joss Whedon is a creative genius, but creative geniuses can't stay on the same property for too long because the well runs dry. They need to keep pushing their creativity. And with Sam Raimi, first Spider-Man, very good film. Second Spider-Man, fantastic film. Third Spider-Man, one of the worst comic book movies ever made. And it's not that Sam Raimi suddenly became a bad director. He's still a great director. But his creativity had run out. We started seeing themes, lines, situations getting repeated over and over and over again. We see him starting to reach for things because now he wasn't in a new playground anymore.
Wow.
And like Whedon, do the second one. Guide the phase 2 of the Marvel Universe and get us to Avengers 2. And I know you can make it awesome. But after that, go. Walk away from it and start to explore the other stuff you want to do. Now's the time for you to do this stuff. Get away from Avengers at that point. Anyway, your thoughts.
I don't really want to get into gossip, but there is I mean, I've heard of many reasons why Spider-Man 3 ended up the way that it did, and it had a lot to do with personal stuff. But I don't want to get I'm not going to get into all of that, but I think that it was a more complicated series of events that led to the series to that disaster.
Yeah, no, I've heard them too, and I've heard people throw out this big excuse that it's the studio because the studio made him
it has nothing to do with the studio.
Dennis, the villain.
Topher Grace?
Yeah, and what's his character?
Venom.
The studio made him use Venom. You know what? Big deal. That's one character. He was still in the director's chair. He was still in control of that film. And you know what? I love Sam Raimi. That was a bad day at the office because I think he stuck around for too long. But anyway.
Well,
let's not talk
it
about
was a bad day
Spider-Man
at the office
3.
for many, many reasons.
Yes.
But with Joss Whedon, I think it would have been, I think it actually would have been the coward's way for him not to take on Avengers 2. And this is the reason. It would be perfectly natural for any human being to go, look at this crazy blockbuster I just made after having directed one feature film that was based on my television show. Man, I don't want to take on the sequel because if I don't knock it out of the ballpark and if it doesn't become this crazy, insane blockbuster, then I have somehow failed. Do you know what I mean? So that's so much pressure. And I think it would have been really natural for someone to be like, hell no, like I'm not taking that on. I'm leaving on a high note, you know? So I think it was good that he is continuing on. And I think it's good. I'm looking forward to seeing what he does. And they're utilizing his strengths. There's no way to know if we think that he should take on the Avengers 3 or not before we see the Avengers 2.
Oh, no, I'll tell you right now, he should leave. He should absolutely leave.
Well.
I have no doubt. And it has nothing to do, because remember, I think Spider-Man 2 was better than Spider-Man 1. So I have no doubt, and I'm very happy Joss Whedon is doing Avengers 2. And I have no doubt it's going to be amazing. I think it's going to be fantastic. But I think that just puts an exclamation point on it that's like, you know what? You have done so much for this property. You've done so much for this universe. You've brought it to a very healthy, vibrant, just expanding place. Now go do the other stuff you want to do. Give us more Joss Whedon original material.
I will agree with you on this. I want to see a lot more original Joss Whedon material. I want to see all of the original Joss Whedon material. Give it to me every single day. Make web content, TV shows, movies, whatever you want. So I will agree with you on that. I don't want his whole career now to be lost to Marvel, you know?
Yeah. I don't want to see Joss Whedon tied up for the next 7 years just in the Marvel Universe.
What you just pitched, basically, with the Avengers 2, it would have to be a trilogy. It would have to be set up as a trilogy in order for what you pitched in the Avengers 2, they lose at the end, to work. That's a trilogy. That's not just a series of sequels that are loosely connected, but, you know, not entirely. It can have a different director. That's a trilogy, and I think that one director should see a trilogy through.
I think history suggests it doesn't have to be one director that sees it through. I mean, you look at the original Star Wars, huge blockbuster. Empire Strikes Back, different director. Return of the Jedi, different director. You look at the Harry Potter films.
Lucas was there the whole time. He wasn't the director.
But Kevin Feige is there governing over. I mean, we all say Joss Whedon. I think Kevin Feige is a guy who does not get enough credit. Kevin Feige has been, and I know for me too, I don't give Kevin Feige enough credit. Cause I mean, I'm always just talking Joss Whedon, and you can't overemphasize the role of Joss Whedon. But I think we don't give Kevin Feige, the president of production at Marvel Studios, enough credit for the way he has shepherded this whole Marvel string. He's really been the granddaddy behind all of this, and he'll be there after Joss Whedon's gone.
True.
I do agree with you completely that what they seem to be setting up, they're not thinking small. They are always thinking, what do we do in this movie? Or what we do in this movie, we have to keep in mind will affect the next 3 Marvel films. And they're always thinking big picture. And I think, look, I think it is most healthy to have one director shepherd a trilogy. At the same time, like we mentioned, James Bond, Star Wars, Harry Potter, we've seen series of films bring other directors in and out with great success, as long as you've got, and I agree with you, that one shepherding overseer that's the constant to kind of keep everything real, kind of in line with the overall vision. Look, I'm not going to cry tears if Joss Whedon sticks around for Avengers 3. I'm going to love it. I'm going to be happy because Joss is awesome.
Right.
I just think it'd be fresh for the franchise to bring in a new creative force. I think it'd be great for Joss to move on and start giving us more Joss Whedon, because he'll never be more powerful in Hollywood than he is now. And he's got the pull right now to do projects that other studios have told him no now for years.
Well, that's an excellent point. And that I would hate to see him lose that, waste that currency, because he absolutely has a lot of currency that he did not have 2 years ago. And I would love to see what he would do with it. And you're right, Kevin Feige is the mastermind behind the whole Marvel cinematic universe, and they have incredible control over the tone of all of these films, so it's not like it would go completely haywire.
Dennis, you're Kevin Feige. Do you work your ass off to get Joss Whedon back, or do you and Joss Whedon now plan up to Avengers 2 and plan a succession plan? What do you do?
If I was him, I would definitely try my hardest to get Joss Whedon back. For what you guys are saying, like the whole, like, I would actually rather have Joss Whedon do his own original stuff, you know?
Yeah.
But, and usually I agree with you, John, about the whole, you know, the third film in a trilogy, like maybe directors running out of creative juices. I don't think Joss Whedon is one of those guys. If you've seen, like, his television series, like Buffy and Angel, not with Firefly, because that was great from the start, but even Dollhouse, like they kind of are slow, and he just keeps getting better and better and better. So maybe by Avengers 3, even as awesome as Avengers 1 is, and maybe 2 is going to be, maybe 3 is going to be even better than that.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible. It is absolutely. I mean, look, Avengers 3 ends up being the greatest motion picture of all time, and Joss Whedon did it. I ain't gonna be surprised.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna be surprised. I just think the better bet right now is to get Joss to do his more original stuff and to bring in a new creative talent under Kevin Feige's guidance. But that's just my thought. Anyway, what else do we got,
Boom.
Candon?
Next email is from Lewis. Hi, you guys. Love the show. I thought about this for some time. Is there any change we will see? Is there any chance? That's a typo. Sorry about that. We will see a Justice League where Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman meet up before a Justice League movie comes out. And what is the difference between a movie and a film?
Oh, those are two very different questions. Okay, let's start with the second question.
Okay.
That's easier.
Wait. What was? I'm sorry.
The second question is, what's the difference between a movie and a film?
Okay.
The real answer is nothing. They're just two. I mean, different people may say they ascribe different kind of meanings and levels of importance to different words, but really, when it comes down to it, they're interchangeable words. Really,
synonyms.
Some people who might want to sound serious when talking about a particular movie might say it's a film, whatever, but really, it's just they're synonymous with each other. Really.
Yeah, I mean, they're just two words. I think that people, when you're writing, honestly, I think that when you're writing about film or movies, that if you are writing for a site that has, or for an outlet, whatever magazine that has a more casual tone, you may use the word movie. And if you're writing for an outlet that's really analytic and has sort of a more intellectual tone, you'll probably use the word film more often than movie. You may never use the word movie, but that's really just semantics.
Yeah, it is.
You know?
Now, regarding the question is, could we see the Justice League together before an actual Justice League movie? In the words of the great Vince McMahon,
yes,
no chance in hell. There's just no way. We already know that the upcoming Superman film, Man of Steel, with Henry Cavill, we already know that there's no Justice League implications in the film. That's what we've been led to believe, that there's no Justice League implications. I can't see them coming up with 2 or 3 other movies before, because from what I understand, Warner Brothers still is aiming for a 2015 Justice League movie. And if that's the case, I can't see them cramming in like 1 or 2 other films between Man of Steel. I mean, maybe another film, but not 2 or 3 other films.
Yeah.
I'm sure they could get in one before that Justice League, and I don't think you're going to see that brought together. I think the first time we'll see Justice League in whatever incarnation it's going to take will probably be in Justice League in 2015, if that even happens.
You got to think that Warner Brothers is under a lot of pressure with this one because of Marvel's success and because of the Avengers and because that other than Batman, they haven't had a lot of success, you know? And so I really feel like they will want to take their time and should take their time before they do any kind of ensemble effort. And they probably really need to see what happens with Man of Steel.
Ugh,
I mean, they have to see if this is successful as they hope it's going to be and they think it's going to be, then they're going to be feeling a lot more confident. But if they are batting, Batman 0, they're going to be a little nervous about what they can do with the DC universe, I think.
I think you want them to take their time, but I mean, in filmmaking terms, 2015 is a long way off.
Sure.
I mean, you can go into production even a year from now and be ready for a 2015 release. So, I mean, they got lots of time to do it right, but that's the key, isn't it?
But they
doing
also
it
want to figure out how they want to set it up.
Yeah,
that's
how
part
to set
of doing
it up,
right.
Doing it right. And, I've said this before, I'll say it again. If they decide to go in this direction of having it be the Justice League universe being a completely different universe from the other characters they're already setting up, like having a different Superman than Henry Cavill in whatever, it's the wrong decision, and it's the wrong way to go.
It's totally wrong. Today's audience will not buy into that.
I won't buy into it. And don't get me wrong. I will give the movie a shot, and maybe it would be awesome. I just think they're not putting themselves in the best position for potential success by doing it. Could work.
I think they waited too long.
Yeah.
They needed to have done this when they could have gotten bail.
But who knows?
Who knows?
It could be amazing. Let's move on. What else we got?
All right, the last email we have is pronounced Xylix, like that they put in the little help.
Second cousin to Mitzelplix.
Hi guys, love the show. Best 2 hours of my week besides the Manchester United game. Thanks. What do you guys think of the upcoming Les Miserables film? I'm a huge Hugh Jackman fan. Huge Jackman. Loved Anne after TDKR, and Russell is an amazing actor. I first saw the trailer in the theater, and Anne's voice made every hair on my body stand up. The fact that they were singing as they were filming, not
pre-recorded.
Not pre-recorded the songs before shooting. Looks like it's going to make the movie a great experience.
Yeah.
Dennis, you and I were actually talking about this the other day. Explain to everybody what it was you were explaining to me about them, like how they did the singing.
Well, they're not recording it beforehand in a recording studio and then lip syncing to it on set. They're actually recording them on set singing
As they're shooting the scene.
Yes, and what they do is they have an earpiece in their ear that this guy's playing the piano live that's feeding to them, and they're singing to that. So they're recording it so it's more natural and authentic. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, they were just talking about this at Universal the other day, and the early buzz on Les Miserables is really good. And one of the elements that they were talking about was the live, that the live singing added this raw, organic quality to the musical that I don't think actually is appropriate for every musical, but for Les Miserables, it absolutely is, because it is a dark, gritty, very, very intense and tragic character drama. I love this play so much. This is probably my favorite musical. I cannot wait for this movie. The trailer made me cry practically, and I don't care if you make fun of me because it really did. I thought it was gorgeous. I cannot wait to see this movie, and it is the perfect casting.
Dear heavens.
Who else should be Jean Valjean but Hugh Jackman? And who else should be Javert, the absolute brute a-hole, but Russell Crowe, who looks like the biggest a-hole ever?
I gotta tell you, I originally thought Russell Crowe for Jean Valjean.
No!
I really did, yeah. Because especially if you watch like the Colm, is it Colm Wilkinson who played Jean Valjean in the London production of it? He looks more like Russell Crowe. I mean, he has, especially the older,
the
powerful,
big and the
older guy, powerful man when he's older. But then I heard Javert, and I thought, and you and I've had this discussion before. Javert is one of my absolute all-time favorite on-stage characters ever, because I love characters that are not one-dimensional. There is something else to them, and there's this beauty about Javert. Now, unless you're a stage geek, you won't understand what I'm talking about here, but if you've seen Les Mis, the beautiful thing about this character Javert, what I love about this character so much, is that he does all these awful things because he thinks it's right.
Yeah,
and when you get characters like that, he wants to be honorable. He wants to do good for society. He wants to do all this. But he is so bound up by the letter of the law that it actually makes him, in thinking he's doing good, doing horrific evil. And then in Les Mis, there's this beautiful, I love this scene more than any other stage play in history, when he is confronted with the idea that there is good to be done outside of the law.
Right.
And he's confronted with this. It is such turmoil for him that he doesn't know what else to do but end his own life.
Yeah, I think the reason Javert is such a great character too is all of those things, which is I mean, we see it in the world all the time. People doing the wrong things for the right reasons,
or what they think is the right reasons,
or what they think is the right reasons, or doing the right thing through the wrong path, which is a little bit like Jean Valjean, you know. And it's not black and white at all, even because it's dealing, of course, with the French Revolution, which is not black and white. You know, it was like brutal and bloody, but necessary, and all these other things. And so I think it's just a fascinating character study through this relationship between Jean Valjean and Javert. But Javert is great too, because what else is really human about him is that the reason that he's obsessed with the letter of the law, and the reason that he's obsessed with Jean Valjean is because he reminds him of himself. He's like, I grew up in the gutter too. I know men just like you. I know who you are. I was you. I could be you. And he hates that part of himself that's a gutter rat. He hates it so much that he just wants to destroy it when he sees it in somebody else, which is so human.
Yeah, and every character in Les Mis is a beautiful character study of different parts of humanity. And there's a reason that, aside from, seriously, if The Hobbit was not coming out this year, I don't know that there would be a film. I would have said all year, and this includes the Avengers. before I saw the Avengers. I don't know that there would have been a film this year that I said I was looking forward to more than Les Mis. Hugh Jackman as Jean Valjean, Anne Hathaway, obviously Russell Crowe, who I still believe is the best actor alive today. And this whole singing thing, the way they're going to do this, how good does Anne Hathaway sound in the trailer?
She sounds amazing, and and we knew that they could sing because we've heard Hugh Jackman sing before, and we've heard Anne Hathaway sing before. But she just sounds amazing, and that's one of my favorite songs in the play. It's so sad, it's just so tragic, but she sounds incredible, and to sound that amazing live, and that we as the audience get that cathartic feeling like in a play of the emotions that she's experiencing rather than something that was canned in a studio, which is why they did it that way. They were like, you're not going to be able to express what you're expressing live when you're performing it, which is why they recorded it that way. I think is going to make this one of the best musicals that maybe ever, but now I'm exaggerating. I know. I haven't seen it.
No. There is let's be literal. Literally, this has the potential to be the greatest musical film ever made. Yeah. I believe that completely. Now, will it? We have to wait and see. But I mean, all the pieces are there. Okay, so was that the last one we had there?
The last one, yep.
All right, let's take one or two things from the chat board, and then we'll wrap things up here.
Got it. This one's kind of interesting. This is from Chris Mulvogue. Says opinions on perks of being a wallflower and writers directing their own films.
I haven't seen. I'm dying to see this movie. I haven't seen it yet, but everybody says it's just fantastic. And I think that writers directing their own films, I mean, sure. I mean, if you are both a writer and a director, it makes a lot of sense to me because you will be able to execute your vision better than anybody else. But I think like anything, there are some people that actually need distance, and that there are some people that need somebody else to come in and be the overseer. People think that they can do things that they can't sometimes.
I think that the danger of, and I agree with you, I think there's a real inherent advantage of writing it because you can write it with the images already in your head, and then you can translate as accurately as possible if you're also the director of the film. The potential drawback is if you wrote it, you have the danger of being a little bit too married to your written page.
A little too precious.
Yeah. Whereas a director can take a script and say, I'm going to change this, I'm going to change this, I'm going to change this. And that might be for the benefit of the film, whereas if you wrote it and you're directing, you'd probably be more resistant to change anything written because you wrote it. There are advantages, there are disadvantages. So
it's just like actors directing themselves. You know, there are some people that absolutely can do it, and there's sometimes that I think you just don't have the objectivity. You know, you're too concerned with the wrong things, and you need to be concerned with the story.
You know who just said that recently?
Who?
Sylvester Stallone. In talking about why he got somebody else, he made the decision to let somebody else direct Expendables 2. He said it was just too much, and I couldn't get an accurate view of what was going on. I don't know how some guys do it. Clint Eastwood can do it.
Ben Affleck can do it.
Yeah.
Woody Allen, but Woody Allen's kind of his own thing. I feel like he's kind of in his own category, you know.
Lots of things Woody Allen's on his own about, but we won't go into that. Anyway, what else we got in the chat board?
Let's see. Does anyone think, other than me, this is from Darren Seeley, does anyone think other than me that the poor reception of Dredd might hurt Looper?
The poor reception of Dredd
let's be clear here.
Interesting.
The reception of Dredd is very positive. It's being very positively received. The problem that Dredd is facing, which is the problem we all knew it was going to have, is no one's going to go see it.
Right.
And look, Dredd has a couple strikes against it from a PR point of view right off the bat. Number one, not a lot of people who aren't really into comics know who Dredd is.
Right.
Number two,
the Sylvester Stallone
there was
original.
That horribly awful, abysmal Sylvester Stallone film. When I talk to people who aren't real huge film addicts, and I mention Dredd, they're like, oh, Sylvester Stallone movie. No, this is a very, very different film. Based on the same character, very different film. And the other drawback it had, and I've said this to, people who work at Lionsgate. I said this directly. And you gotta understand, I love this movie. I love Dredd. I think it's a great film. The trailer was awful. Mm-hmm. And I don't think the trailer did anything to win anybody over.
Well,
and
also, it's a comic book movie that's a hard. I mean, it's
a hard R.
Crazy violent. I mean, I haven't actually seen it yet because I was at Disneyland all weekend. But it is a hard R, and from everything I understand, incredibly violent, which means you're not taking your kids to see it.
No,
which,
you can't take kids.
Yeah.
You don't have 12-year-olds that can walk up to the ticket booth and buy tickets for it. So it faced. Look, I think this was a movie that was destined to not do well at the box office. The question is, and I think Lionsgate, the folks at Lionsgate were smart enough to know that. They faced a huge uphill battle with this. I think they're probably looking beyond the first movie, though. The question is, can it do enough business when it's all said and done to not necessarily be a hit, but get enough positive word of mouth, get enough people that liked it, and to justify going ahead and making a second one? I think they were smart enough that they were looking that far down the thing, because I think they had to know, from a box office wise, for this film alone, they were facing an uphill battle.
I think the basic question, though, is kind of interesting, because
can this affect Looper?
Would it affect Looper? I mean, I really think that the only things that affect Looper, well, three things affect Looper. One, how attached are you to the leads? So how attached are you to Joseph Gordon-Levitt at this point as an audience? And I think that certainly The Dark Knight Rises helped that. That helped him gain some capital. How attached are you to Bruce Willis? People like Bruce Willis.
He's a bankable name.
Yep. And then Emily Blunt, I think, is an actress that people really like, but she's not necessarily.
She'll have her presence will have no bearing on the box office whatsoever.
So then it's Rian Johnson. Now, his previous two films are ones, as we know, I love, and that Dennis loves, and a lot of.
But nobody saw.
But very few people saw. They did not do tremendous business at the box office. These were independent films. So that's kind of a question. And then it's a genre film. It's a genre, and it's a very unique genre film. So this is a sci-fi film that's unlike most sci-fi films. It's a gangster film that's unlike most gangster films. And so I think those are the challenges that Looper faces, and that what you hope overcome those challenges is those two leading men and their draw, and people's interest in seeing this film through word of mouth, which I hope will build.
And I think the opposite of Dread, they did really put out really good trailers. I think they put out some exciting trailers. And this could be a very confusing premise to a lot of people, but I think the trailer kind of laid it out very nicely. I think people kind of understand what they're getting when they're going to the film. I don't think Rian Johnson's name is going to attract or whatever. All being as it may, I think the movie is going to do just fine. I'm going to predict, for this time of year, I'm going to predict 30 million opening weekend.
For Looper, it's going up. I mean, it's Pitch Perfect is opening in a limited next weekend.
Different audience, though, right? Totally different audience. I'm going to predict 30.
I hope so. I really do, because I honestly want people to see the
10.
movie. No, I really want people to see this movie, and I really want to talk to them about it, because this is the kind of movie that you can't really talk about until the other person has seen it, and then you really can talk about it.
But give me a guess. How much did it make as an opening weekend?
35.
35. So you're going to take the dentist.
I'm being positive.
Give me a guess.
I'm gonna go with 30. I mean, I'm hoping it does very well, because it's actually also my number one.
And I think at 30, they have to consider that knocking it out of the park. I think they have to consider that a great success. I think you make 20. I think they got to be happy with it, considering the time of year we're in. But I hope it does really well. You can want to take a wild guess?
28.
Oh, she's gonna play the game. She's gonna play the $1 under. Okay, Price is Right. Well, listen, folks, that will do it for us. We are plumb out of time. We've actually gone a little bit over time. Thank you so much for joining us. Once again, folks, don't forget, subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can keep up to date not only on every episode of AMC Movie Talk, but you'll see our movie news videos. You'll see our celebrity interviews. We got a few going up today that Roth did. And just keep up to date with everything that we're doing. I want to thank, as always, Associate Editor of AMC Movie News, Jennings Roth Cornett.
Thank you very much.
Sitting over there, the production supervisor over here at AMC Movie News. He also runs this great genre site called Think Hero, which you should absolutely check out. Mr. Dennis Zen.
Thanks for having me on the show.
A.K.A. Mr. Snuffleupagus. And sitting at the back, as always, taking your questions, keeping track of you guys in the chat board, Miss Cannon Jackson. Cannon.
Thank you very much.
And thank you again. Don't forget, join us every Monday and Thursday. Follow us on YouTube at youtube.com/AMC Theaters. And until next time, my name's John Campia. See you then. If you enjoyed this video, please click the like button below. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and join us at amctheaters.com and watch one of our other AMC Movie News videos below.